Hello guys, Steven here. Now in this video we are going to create a feature class. Then we also create a geodatabase and then store our feature class within our geodatabase. Now I'm talking about two things, a geodatabase and then a feature class. So what's the difference between them and then what are they used for? Okay, so basically a feature class stores our features. Okay, so just as the name implies, a feature class stores our features by grouping the features into various classes. Now I know that may sound a bit confusing, but let's look at this scenario. Okay, so we are going to do a mapping. We are going to create a database for a special database for a school mapping. Okay, now every feature in real world, okay, can either be a point, a line, or polygon. I know that you understand that from your basic understanding of geography. So for a school, for instance, we can have trees, we can have utility poles, we can have fire hydrants, and so on. These we can store as points. Then we can also have footpaths, we can have roads, we can have waterways, which we can store as lines. Then finally, we can have classroom blocks, we can have dining area, and so on, which we can store as polygon. So these three different kind of shapes, okay, are features. And so we can group the point as we can group similar features like trees, like fire hydrants as points. Then we can also group similar features like waterways, footpaths as lines. And then we can also do that for polygon based on the kind of shape that they have. So for features that will have point shape, we'll store them as point features. Then we have line, and then finally we have polygon. Now all these feature classes cannot exist on their own. Okay, so we have to store them in a geodatabase, which actually is a database container for feature classes. Now this feature class we are talking about, okay, it's a little bit different from shapefile. Even though shapefiles can have points, lines, and then features, shapefile can exist on their own without being stored in a geodatabase. So a shapefile is more of like a universal kind of way of sharing spatial data, whereas feature classes are very much peculiar to the ArcGIS environment. So enough of the talk, let's go on. Okay, so now the first thing that we are going to do is to make sure that we have a folder. Okay, so once we create a project in ArcGIS Pro, we already have a default folder representing the name of the project that we have. Now you can also create and then connect to a different folder by right-clicking on folders and then adding folder connection. Then you specify the folder on your machine. But in this case, we are going to use the folder that comes with the project that we have created. Good. So now next thing, we are going to create our geodatabase. Okay, so within our work folder, you already have a geodatabase there. Okay, so you can make use of that geodatabase, or you can go ahead and create a new geodatabase. So we are going to create a new geodatabase by right clicking on our folder. Then we'll go to new, and then we will select file geodatabase. Good. So I'll click on it, and then I'm going to give it a name. Okay, so I'll give it a name. Okay, just give me some seconds. I think my new folder has been created. So I'll right click it and I'll call it school geodatabase. So I'll call it school geodatabase, and then I'll say enter. So I already have my geodatabase created. Now, the next thing we are going to do is to first start off with our point feature class. Okay, so for the point feature class, we are going to create two different features for the point. Okay, so we are going to have one to store trees and plants, and then we'll have another one to store utility poles. So I can right click here, then I can go to new. Okay, so I'll go to feature class, and then I'll select feature class. So we have the feature class pop up, okay, open here for us. Now we'll give a name for our feature class. So what I'm going to call my feature class, first I'm going to call it utility poles. Now feature class name shouldn't have an empty space, so you either use the camel casing by joining two words together like I have over here, or you can use underscores and then dashes, but the alias is the human readable name, so we are going to give it space utility poles. So here I'll specify what kind of shape do I want to use, and then I'll say I want a point. So I'll click on next. Okay, so this is where I'm going to design the fields, okay, for my database. That is my utility data. Okay, so I'll start here by clicking this, click here to add a new field. So what am I going to call my first field name? So I'll call it name. Okay, so yeah, so I'll call it name. Okay, and then what kind of data type do I want to? So there are various data types. Okay, you have short integer, long integer, text, and double, and then all that. Okay, so depending on the kind of data that your field will accept, in this case a text, I will just select it. Good. So the next thing that I'm going to specify, okay, I can specify stuff like, okay, type, so which represent the utility pole type. Okay, and then I could also maintain it as text. Then I could add material, so representing the material of the utility pole, so maybe wood, steel, or whatever, and then that will also be text. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add height, or let me say length, so the length of the pole. Now I want this to be double because it will accept decimal numbers, so I'll double, and then I would also do that for width. Okay, width, and then so width here will also be double. Okay, then finally I'm going to have date. So yeah, so I can have, maybe I can have condition, so the condition of the pole. Okay, so condition of the pole, whether it is good, it is bad, it is broken, so that could also be test. And then finally I would have date, so the date of the mapping, and then I would have that as date. Now let me point this thing to you. Okay, so you can, so for every field name head field that you create, it has both a name and then an alias. Okay, so now the alias represents the human readable version, okay, that of the field name, so the name that will appear on top of the field head. Now this field name are kept for the memory the system use, okay, where this one is supposed to be human readable. Now if your field name is different, your alias is different from the field name, then you have to specify that. If not, you can leave it as default and it's going to automatically use the field name for the alias. Then also allow null values here indicates that would you allow mappers, okay, to leave that field blank for any feature they collect if they do not have that information? Yes, in most cases, but no if you are doing such mapping where you cannot skip any information. Okay, now you have default, so you can enter a value which would automatically be automatically populate if you do not collect or if you do not pick any information. So it could be stuff like some system information. Okay, so something like maybe mapper name or something, and then you can have that. Then also you can have the length, so the length here represents the maximum number of characters. So in most cases here you have this 255, and of course you can leave this. Mostly I leave this, okay, but then just mind the fact that this any additional place value that is not used. So if I only use 10 or 20 number of characters, then the rest are going to be kept in the system and then add to space or add to memory. But in most cases, you wouldn't really bother about that. Okay, so now I'm done with the field names. Then next, I'm going to click on next. And then this is where I specify the coordinate system that I'm going to use. So when you are doing a mapping, okay, when you are doing mapping, let's say with GPS or with the your collector for ArcGIS and then all that one, then when you are doing that mapping, mostly in most cases, when I'm going to eventually map or publish my data to online or for web use, I mostly like to keep to this WGS 1984. Okay, so I'll keep it selected, and then I can go to next, and I will leave all these defaults, and then finally I will just click on finish. So I'm not going to do that for the plants or the trees, okay? So I'll give that to you as an exercise, okay? And please try and then complete that aspect, because we will make use of that other information in some of our next videos. Now I'm done with the point feature. Next, I'm going to create a line feature. So which line feature am I going to use? Okay, so I'm going to use roads, okay? So I'm going to use roads in the school. Now I'll right click the geodatabase, go to new, and then I'll point to feature class. So what am I going to do? I'm going to create roads, okay, roads, and then the alias I would also keep it as roads. So I'll specify the feature class, that's the feature stored in the feature class. So what feature am I going to create? I'm going to create a line feature, because roads are supposed to have line shape or linear shape. So I'll select line, I'll click on next, and here I'm going to build my field names, my field information, okay? So I can have name of the road, okay, so name of the road, okay, so name of the road, and I'll keep that as test. Then I could have maybe I could have length of the okay, let me just start with like name, maybe condition, so condition of the road. So I have condition, which is test. I could also have length of the road, and then I'll have that as double. Then so name, condition, length of that. Then I could have date for the mapping. So I'll have that as date, and then I'll delete this extra field which I don't need. So I have name, condition, length, and then date, and then I'll click on next, and then I'll keep the coordinate system as it is. Next, keep going, and then finally you click on finish. Great. So I'm going to also leave you to also create the feature for footpath. Yes, so I'm going to leave you to create the footpath also as your assignment. So just go through the same process that I have done. Finally, let's create the last shape or feature class, which are polygons. So for polygons, we are going to create for classrooms, okay? So I'll right click on the geodatabase, I'll go to new, and then I'll click on feature class. So I'm going to call this classrooms. So for alias, I would have classrooms, and that will be polygon. So I'll leave it as it is. I'll click on next. So for the fields, I'm going to have name of the class, which will be test, and then I'm going to have yeah, I'm going to have, what else can I have? So name, I think I can have name of the class. I can also have condition of the class. So condition of the classroom, so that will be test. Then I think I would also have date of mapping, and then that will be date. Okay, so I'll click on next. I'll click on next by maintaining the coordinate system. Next, and finally I'll click on finish. So I have 3 feature classes. So I have one for a point utility post, I have another for line, rows, and then classroom. Now I'm going to leave you to explore and then come up with additional features that we can map in a school. So I'll give you some clues. Okay, so what about sports centers? So feature class for sports centers. Okay, so like football park, basketball court, and then so on. And then also for other school facilities like offices and all those ones. So I would expect that you take this as your assignment and try to come out with more features that you can create. But just mind you that any feature that you create is either going to be a point, a line, or a polygon. Great. So guys, thank you for being part of this video, and I know you have learned a lot. Now in the next video, we are going to look at how to create domains. So we are going to see how we would add drop-down values for some of the information. For instance, condition, we want to have something like good, bad, damage, and in that case we want the mapper, or want the data editor to be able to select from a drop-down list instead of entering figures on their own to avoid any kind of errors. So I would expect that you spend some time and then expand on what we have done. See you in the next video. Bye bye.